and the chamber that I'm proud to chair, the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And now, ladies and gentlemen, if you can please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, recited by the Distinguidos Caballeros from Briscoe Elementary School.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now for the Texas Pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Now we will say it in Spanish.
Yo prometo lealtad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que lo representa, una nación bajo Dios entera, con libertad y justicia. Y ahora el juramento a la bandera de Texas. Ahora honra la bandera de Texas. Te juro lealtad a ti, Texas, un estado ante Dios único e indivisible.
You may be seated.
Thank you. Now we can be seated. Let's give these incredible young men a round of applause. Our future is definitely bright. And also I'd like to recognize the drum line from Edison High School. And also, if you don't recognize another school in the house, let's give a round of applause to Cyber P Tech from Sam Houston High School, who are also with us today. They're acting as ushers, making sure that our attendings found our venue. Before we continue, I would like to recognize and thank our elected officials and board of directors who are joining us today. Today we have U.S. Congressman Joaquin Castro, from the SAISD Board of Trustees, President Patty Radel from District 5, Vice President Arthur Valdez from District 4, Secretary Deborah Guerrero from District 3, Trustee Steve Lechlope from District 1, Trustee Alicia Perry from District 2, Trustee Cristina Martinez from District 6, Trustee Ed Garza from District 7, former SAISD School Board President Dr. Julian Trevino, Councilwoman Jada Andrews Sullivan from District 2, Councilwoman Adriana Rocha Garcia from District 4, Councilwoman Shirley Gonzalez from District 5, Councilwoman Ana Sandoval from District 7, Dr. Cynthia Tenenton Matson from Texas A&M University San Antonio, Dr. Diane Melby, Our Lady of the Lake University, Dr. Robert Vela from San Antonio College, and Dr. Adina Williams from Lawston St. Philip College, as well as Jose A. Macias, Board of Trustees from Alamo College District. Thank you all for being here. For many years, the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, along with the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce, have worked together to host this event with SAISD Foundation, to continue to shine the light on the idea that great cities need urban school districts. And we are excited to be here again with you all today. I would like to now introduce you all to Suzanne Peterson, an Executive Vice President in Corporate Banking at Frost Bank and SAISD Foundation Board Chair. Please join me in welcoming Suzanne Peterson.
So why don't I start with asking all of the board members for the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce and the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and the SAISD Foundation Board, as well as the Foundation Advisory Council, to all stand up and please let us recognize you. Thank you all very much. All right, here are the event sponsors. And by the way, I want to let you know that this is a sold-out event today. As a sponsor for this event, you're showing your support in recognition of the importance of education as a key component in making economic prosperity a possibility for all. Let me now recognize the gold sponsors, City Education Partners, First Mark Credit Union, HEB, Frost Bank, PBK Architects, Wells Fargo. Silver sponsors, H.E. Butt Foundation, Garza Bomberger and Associates, CPS Energy, Pape Dawson Engineers, Port San Antonio College, Vanessa and Cliff Hurd. Bronze sponsors, Brooks, VLK Architects, Choose to Succeed, the DeBerry Group, Teach for America, Linebarger, Goggin, Blair, and Sampson, San Antonio Area Foundation, Deborah and Rex Amini. Media sponsor, the Rivard Report, and furniture sponsor, Office Source. And of course, our partners, the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce. With Pedro now in his 5th year leading SAISD, he needs no introduction. So rather, I want to recognize him for his strong and innovative leadership, which is already resulting in significant academic gains for our kids, along with more choices in the type of education that best suits the students. Teacher and employee morale is at an all-time high, as evidenced by their own personal giving through the SAISD Foundation back into the classroom. Superintendent Pedro Martinez, the trustees, SAISD leadership, and the teachers have lofty goals and are headed in a positive direction. The best thing that we can do to help them is to succeed is to surround them with our support. So if someone asks you to share insight into your career by being a speaker in the classroom or allowing some kids to go into your place of work to see what you do, or if you're asked to support a teacher's grant request, please consider how impactful your involvement will be. Before Pedro makes his way to the stage, please focus on the screen to learn how to submit a question for the moderated Q&A later in the program. You can do so by visiting slido.com and entering hashtag K741. Now please welcome to the stage Superintendent Pedro Martinez.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Come on, guys, you can do better than that. Good morning, everyone.
Hey, good morning.
So, this is my 5th year, Suzanne said, so this is actually my 5th time doing this now. And so my hope is today, I want to show you, give you a little context. I always give you a little bit of context about our district because it's always important to understand that. Just some recent results that we've gotten. And then I want to give you a little bit of an insight of where we're going in the future. So that's the journey which I want to take you on today. So first, the context. It probably been now, this has been 3 years now that we started talking about this concept that when I first moved to San Antonio, and I grew up in poverty. My father never earned more than $7 an hour. I'm the oldest of 12 children, 10 of us still alive. First to go to high school, first to go to college. And I thought I knew poverty. I really did. I thought like, hey, I know poverty. Like I grew up in poverty. I know it, right? I come to San Antonio and I realize, it looks different here. And it's interesting because as I was driving around the district, I could see very different, big differences in the west side. Big differences as I started heading towards the north. And so that took us on a journey to say, well, what if we look at poverty in a different way in our district? So what if we look at median income? What if we look at whether our families have a 2-parent household? what if we look at the fact that, we have such a high transiency rate, one of the highest I've ever seen in the country. So does owning your own home, and we have David from South here who's doing amazing work, but does owning your own home, having a stable residence, does that matter?
I'm good, thank you.
And then we said, what if we look at the education level of our adults in the household? We have a lot of proud residents in San Antonio. Many of them are alumni of our high schools here in San Antonio ISD, but we really have a big variance in terms of education. So we looked at that, we mapped that out using census data, and what you have in front of you is what we did. And that's our district, and when you see the red, those are our poorest neighborhoods, and we're all the way up to the green. By the way, green, not talking about, very wealthy people, right? These are, but still, at least a good middle class, right? A lower middle class. And so we did that. And then what we did is we went to the state, and folks, the governor in the State of the State address before the last session talked about this and talked about San Antonio ISD and what we're doing. This has now been adopted by the entire state of Texas. It is the first state in Texas that's redesigning how they look at poverty, and by the way, started increasing funding specifically for high poverty children. So I just want you to know the influence we're having. And again, more context, look at us versus the state. So one of the things that we tell our staff, look, our children come from humble means, but let's embrace it. Let's understand it, let's embrace it, and let's really tap into the potential of these children. And that, I will tell you, is what I am seeing happening more and more in our district, and the results are starting to show. But look at the demographics, look at the difference in median income. By the way, when we did this was a surprise. I didn't realize that 56% of our households were single-parent households. That was that was really interesting to me. So when we start thinking about school hours and children, families and individuals that are working 2 jobs, right? I mean, just think about the challenges that creates. And also look at the percent of households with some college. What's interesting though is we're not that different from the state. So we're very close on that measure. So let's talk about economic progress. What is happening in our district? So first of all, one of the things we're very proud of is the commissioner for the first time came to one of our schools to announce the academic results of the entire state. And one of the things that he said was, Pedro, you guys have seen one of the biggest gains, and I'll show you his quotes, but one of the things that we love is that we've seen this trajectory. 4 years ago, we would have been an F district. Look where we're at today as a B district. By the way, B districts match North Side, Northeast. And what I gotta tell you, I can feel it when I go to our schools. I can feel it when I walk into our classrooms. There's a different energy level. And what I love is you see it in the children. And one of the things that I can tell you that I am seeing more and more is that if we partner with the community, if we partner with parents, there is no limits to the dreams that these children have. And clear evidence is around you. First of all, we have students here. We also have their pictures around. We see students that have aspirations. We have students that are going to Johns Hopkins next year. We have students that are going to Stanford. We have students that are staying here in San Antonio, going to amazing colleges like St. Philip's, San Antonio College, Texas A&M San Antonio. We have a student that's going to Trinity. We have the gamut because it's about their dreams. We have a student that's going to join the Navy because that's her dream. And so what's happening in our district is we're saying, you know what? It doesn't matter what the poverty is. What is the dream of these children? How do we unite together? And by the way, I'll say this, and I'll say this often, I think this can only happen in a community like San Antonio. This is a community that rolls up their sleeves, comes together, and says, how do we solve this? How do we work together on this? That is what's happening in our district. The other thing we saw is we've tripled the number of A&B schools. So we went from 8% to 27%. So our schools overall are getting stronger. And this is the quote that the commissioner said. San Antonio ISD gained the most in student achievement of every single large district in Texas. There are 53 school districts. We have the highest gains of the largest districts in Texas. By the way, the other quote he said was, even though San Antonio ISD has the 3rd highest poverty rate in the entire state of Texas, and what the district is showing is that poverty will not determine destiny in San Antonio. And so that came directly from the commissioner. So what we're doing we started last week, is we're starting to introduce now our 2025 goals. We had in our 2020 goals, if you remember, our goal was to be a B district by the end of 2020. We got there a year ahead of time. We are now taking our goals to 2025, and I'll just tell you, our goal is to be an A district by 2025. And we want to take, and you're going to see some more details on our goals, but that's the main headline, is we want to be an A district by 2025, and we see the possibility. We've been very proud of our graduation rate. We're now at 85%. Our goal by 2025 is to hit to 90%. We're very proud that we tripled the number of A and B schools. Not enough. Not enough. We want 70% of our schools to be A and Bs by 2025. And ladies and gentlemen, again, as I walk into these classrooms, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing the change. I'm seeing the energy level from our students, from our teachers. You know, it's sad, but, you know, and this is something that, you know, sometimes is very hard for me to share, but when you look at us 4 years ago, back in 2016, we had 70% of our seats, our classroom seats, were F seats. What that means in the state of Texas is that these seats were in the bottom 5% of the entire state of Texas. There's 1,200 school districts. Imagine how many schools, imagine how many classrooms and how many seats. We were at that low level, but look how much we reduced it. Now, we still have challenges. We have 40 D and F schools, but let me tell you what I'm seeing right now in just most recent data. So first of all, we're seeing our B get stronger this year. We celebrated our high schools just a week ago because in our world, we have children that they first take their assessments, but they don't pass them the first time. We call them retesters. These are the children that tend to have the biggest gaps. They're children in high school. And frankly, it was an area that we just struggle with. And so we said, you know what, the way we're going to solve it, we're just not going to have them. We're just going to have them pass it the first time. So we've been reducing the number of children that couldn't pass the first time. So last week, we reported the results with our retesters, which are lower now, which is great, but we had double-digit gains, outperformed the state in every single subject, and it was every high school. Woo! And so that shows you what is happening in our district. And so for us, one of the things we know is that we're going to see decreases both in our D and F schools this year. We're still going to have too many, but again, keep in mind, we're going back from 2016, where 70% of our seats were Fs. So again, we're going to be very aggressive. But here's the thing I want to make sure you know: we are not having a low bar. So our goal is not just to graduate our kids. Our goal is not to just get to that minimum standard. That is not the goal. That is not the goal. And so what I'm going to show you now is how we're making sure that that's not the goal. So first of all, one of the things I'm very proud of is we now have, of our class of 2019, we have children that have completed advanced placement, international baccalaureate, dual credit. 42% of our class of 2019 has been completing these courses. By the way, what's awesome, and they're all earning college credit, what is amazing is that the state, right now, today is at 43%. We have closed the gap in the state, because here's the thing we said. You know what? Yeah, these children in high school, I'm not going to go to them and say, hey, I wasn't here when you were in elementary school. I wasn't here when you were in middle school. I apologize for that. So, I just wasn't here, right? So your colleagues behind you, they'll do a lot better. We said, no, we're not going to do that, because we know our children. We know our children, whatever challenges they have, it just makes them stronger. It makes them more persistent. And what I tell our families is that, look, if your child's looking to go to college out of state or out of the city of San Antonio, they're going to come back. Because our children, first-generation students, they always come back. And they always have a humbleness to them where they want to be back and be leaders of their community, and we're making sure those opportunities are there for them. So for us, again, we've closed the gap on this measure. And here's the thing. We are looking across our grade level. So we implemented a universal screener for gifted students, because our families of means, they've always known that, hey, I can get my child tested and get them tested for gifted services. They've always known that. Our high poverty families don't know that. So we put universal screeners in our elementary schools in 2 grade levels, and it was fascinating because when we first did it, first of all, look at the number of children that we identify now as gifted and talented, from 2,600 to 3,000. By the way, before 2016, the number was even lower. And it's interesting because when these families, when they get their notice, they'll say, Superintendent, my child was acting up in class, and I thought he or she was a troublemaker because they're acting up in class, and I realized my child is gifted, and they feel kind of guilty because they didn't know their child was gifted, but how all of us feel that, but so, and they're like, I didn't know. And now that I know, and by the way, we have 20 specialists in our district that all they do is work with these gifted children across the entire district. This is their specialty. They give them extra projects. They challenge their work. They challenge them to continue to push themselves. And look at what's happening with our AP scholars. So 2016, we had 43 AP scholars. These are children that are getting at least 9 college credits, many of them 15 or more. College credits just from AP classes and AP exams. We had 43 in 2016. We tripled that number, ladies and gentlemen. Every single high school now has AP scholars represented because we have gifted children in every single school. And we're recognizing them. Look at our algebra. These are students that are taking and mastering algebra by 8th grade so that they can have calculus and pre-calculus by senior year high school. So for those who are STEM fans and advocates, guess what? We're seeing a record number of students that want to go into STEM. We have a student right now, Nicolas, who wants to be a neurosurgeon or a neuroscientist, going to St. Hopkins next year. We have these amazing students that are now going into the STEM fields because we're opening the doors for them as early as elementary school and in middle school. Here's the other thing. For those of you who ask me about, well, superintendent, you know, we have students that want to go into the trades. What about them? We have amazing partnerships with the Alamo colleges. And then what I always tell families, that's our ticket for children who want to go into the trades. That is what it is today. So if you want to be an electrician, you want to be a plumber, you have to go through the Alamo colleges, get a certificate. And we're giving them those first courses, which they earn a certificate with us. Look at the number of certificates that we have increased from 17 to 272 just in the last 3 years alone. So if our children have this dream, we're going to get them there. By the way, this number, I can't even tell you. The number, so you see how fast it's growing? It's going to grow even more this year. It's even a bigger number this year. Because what we're doing is we're getting to know these students and saying, where do you want to go? Yes, you have challenges at home. Where do you want to go? Let's figure out how to get you there. Help us be your vehicle to get there. So again, we talked about graduation. We've increased graduation rate. What we're also proud of is our dropout rate now is less than 10%. So what happens is some of our students, they take more than 4 years. So there's a small number of students that say, you know, I need a 5th year. I need an extra semester. And you know what we say? We say, come on back. Come on back. Finish. Don't drop out. Finish. And so we're very proud. We've now gotten it down to 10%. Folks, it's been at least 20 years since we've seen a dropout rate less than 10% here in San Antonio ISD. But not enough. Not enough, right? Okay, they graduate. So what? Here's what's fascinating. Look at our results compared to the state. These are children that are graduating college ready. Think about that for a second. And you gotta remember, again, and you see it in the evidence of all these students, that are here in the room. We have students from all gamuts, right? And so college ready for us is starting with the community colleges. That's where we start. And then we have students that also are ready for the 4-year universities, all the way into top tier 1 universities, all the way into Ivy League. We have a student today, Thalia, that's going to go to Stanford. We have the whole gamut. But what's important is, again, we set this up for them, and look where we're at today. We're at 42% of our graduates graduating college ready. We have now closed the gap with the state. And look at the increase. By the way, I've looked at this data. This is one of the data that I'm very, very passionate about. I've looked at all the urban districts in Texas. We have now closed the gap with every single urban district. But we have the highest gains of any district in the state of Texas in this measure alone. And look at where we're at. And by the way, still going up. Because again, numbers are just rising. I'm just telling you, the high schools now that they have been able to accomplish this, they're on fire. We now have a plan for every single graduate. And I'll tell you, they are stubborn as heck. This is one of our biggest challenges. So one of the things we know about Texas is that, statewide, only about half of our children go to some post-secondary institution. This is one of the reasons why we have amazing partners here in San Antonio, because this is our biggest challenge, right? The challenge for us is there's so many students, not just in San Antonio, this is the entire state of Texas. This is San Antonio. Only half of our kids go to college. We have closed that gap because we were below 50%. We're now at 52. Still not enough. So one of the things we're pushing is really, again, we're building the aspirations of these children. And one of the things I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that I find is that I still find, in many of our high poverty children, they still have a lack of confidence. And so what we're trying to do is just build up their confidence. And what I tell my staff, build their armor. Build their armor. Because let's face it, folks, society, our country is not kind to people in poverty. It is not. I wish it was, but I'd rather that we were honest with our children. It is not. And so we got to build their armor. So for Nicolás, who's going to go to Baltimore, to Johns Hopkins, it's going to be a different world, right? But Thalia, who's going to go to Stanford, it's a different world. Even here, it's a different world. And so again, we got to build up their armor, but we're building those aspirations. Last year, we hit a record of almost $80 million in scholarships. We're on track to at least meet or exceed that, because again, if there's barriers, we're going to knock them down. By the way, I gotta ask our college representatives to stand up, because they have been amazing partners. I know Dr. Mattson, Robert is here. Please stand up, our college partners. Every one of them, Dr. Lawson, every one of them, and Our Lady of Lake, I know, is here as well. St. Mary's, Incarnate Ward, everybody has stepped up. We have record numbers of students and scholarships coming from all of our local universities. And we're working on with Danny. We're going to increase in Trinity as well, but I'm working with Danny on that. Hint, hint, Danny. But, we are seeing those record, scholarships coming in, because, again, they are stepping up. Because, again, this is a community effort, folks. This is not San Antonio ISD by themselves. This is not our teachers by ourselves. It has to be everybody. And again, it's the gamut, right? So we tell our students, tell us your dream, tell us your pathway. And you see the gamut. So you see 64% of my students are applying to four-year colleges. 60% are applying to the Alamo district. There's 46% overlap, right? So they have their backup and the backup to the backup. So this is where we tell our students, don't lose your aspirations. There's always going to be a path for you. And sometimes, life changes, right? How many of us didn't make changes especially once you left high school? But life changes, right? But we want our children, again, we're building their armor. And here's one of the things that I saw that was really interesting. This was a slide that I got from a presentation by our organization that does economic development in San Antonio. And one of the things that we asked them, tell us your biggest challenge in attracting companies. And they said the biggest challenge is the overall completion rate for 25-year-olds or higher in San Antonio. So when they go to these companies, they're comparing us to Charlotte, they're comparing us to Nashville, they're comparing us to multiple cities, they're comparing us to Austin and to Dallas. And one of the things that worries them is the low completion rates. And so what I love is, along with my college partners, is this is what we're trying to change. Because folks, it directly affects the economic development in San Antonio. It directly affects the economic health of San Antonio. You got to ask yourself, what kind of companies do you want to attract? What kind of jobs do you want to have for our kids? And so this is what we're solving. So again, I just want you to understand the bigger context of this, and this is what we're passionate about to ensure that we do our part as a district. Real quickly, some of the ways we've done it is we've become more data-driven. We have elevated our teachers. We've expanded our options. I'm very proud of this, the fact that we have 50 dual language schools up from 2. And you heard our amazing children when they did the national anthem and the state anthem in Spanish, right? Wasn't it beautiful? I mean, we're bringing that pride into San Antonio. We're doing it the San Antonio way, because that is what works for us. We have over 42 choice offerings. We have the second largest international baccalaureate program. So any of our military folks that have been abroad, you know that one of the best programs in the world is the IB International Baccalaureate Program. We have the second largest, second only to Houston. By the way, we've invested in the fine arts. So by the way, you see 79%. It's actually 100% of our K to 8th grade students now have access to the arts. Preschool, it's built into their curriculum. High school, they have choices. So some of them want to do ROTC, some of them want to do athletics, some of them want to do fine arts. We offer the gamut. And you can see, again, all of our investments. So lastly, one of the things that I see as a challenge, and this is where I want your help. Again, you have been with us every step of the way, ladies and gentlemen. None of these results have happened without the community. And by the way, I want to step a second and just recognize our board. If you can, I'm going to have the board of trustees just stand up for a second. Folks, they are the fearless leaders. They are the fearless leaders who every day are not only do they show their passion for their community, for their schools, they hold me accountable, they push me, they're amazing critical thought partners for me. We make each other better. I really honestly say that, and I just want to thank each and every one of them, because they make me better, and together we're accomplishing this work. Together, we're setting the tone. The other thing I would like to, if you don't mind, I'd like to have my senior exec team just stand up for a second. My exec team, please. Nathan from Transportation, Tiffany Chief Graham, Vanessa Hurd, Patty Salzman, Leslie Price, Willie Burrows, Kamal, Dr. Thompson, Mohammed Chowdhury. This team, Trish, this team together, again, they are the ones that are helping me put these strategies in place. That is why we're seeing these gains. And so here's the ask I have of you. So the academics are getting strong. They're only going to get stronger, folks. Like I said, everything that I'm seeing right now, everything is going in the same direction. It's going up. We're seeing low performances. We're going to see a reduction this year. We're seeing amazing dreams that our children now are aspiring to, and we're helping them get to that. But I'll tell you, when you walk into our buildings, I know some of you have probably haven't been in our buildings in a long time, maybe ever, you know, they show their age. They show their need. And one of the things that was amazing was in the 2016 bond, we had a chance to invest in all of our high schools. This is a picture you're seeing of Burbank. We actually got a chance to build a brand new Burbank. Mr. Valdez was a graduate from Burbank representing that area. He went to that school that we're going to tear down in a year or two. But he couldn't be more excited, along with all of his colleagues, about our new Burbank High School. But we're doing major renovations in every high school. But the challenge is we have so many buildings, and they have so much need. And so one of the reasons we've been talking about the fact that we have about $2.5 billion worth of need, and part of the challenge is that we just didn't have, in the past, a long-term facility plan. We didn't have it. And what I want, as I walk into these classrooms, I want the classrooms to match the academics. I'm seeing the instruction. I'm seeing the results. I'm seeing the aspirations being built. It doesn't match up to the buildings. It really doesn't. And so one of the things that we're going to commit to you that if this happens, and we're setting up a Blue Ribbon Task Force to look at all of our buildings, do a proposal to the board by this summer, but the commitment we'll make to you is if this happens, we will do it without increasing your rates. Why can we do that? Because as I drive now through downtown, as I drive through Broadway, because by the way, 5 years ago, I was complaining like, where are the cranes? Where are the cranes? I don't see any cranes. I go to Northside, I see cranes. I go to Northeast, I see cranes. Where are the cranes? Now I'm seeing cranes. You know? And so that development, whether it's apartment buildings, office buildings, new housing that's coming up, that development is what's going to fund this future growth. It's going to fund these future bonds. And so that is the commitment that we're making to the community, is that any bonds that we do going forward are going to be based on the investments that are happening in this community. So I just want you to know that, and these are some of the promises we're making with that bond, touching every single school, every single classroom, because again, our children deserve it. When they go to college, folks, when they go to whether it's Stanford or St. Philip's or San Antonio College, nobody's going to say, oh, you went to that old building that didn't have a lot of technology. We'll do something different for you. Doesn't work like that, right? When they get interviewed by our employers, they say, oh, you went to that district and that school. Yeah, I know it's getting better. I know that crazy superintendent was trying to make it better, but we'll treat you a little different. Doesn't happen that way. I want our children to have every single opportunity, and I know that this community is with me on that. We want every single child to reach their dream. And folks, one of the things, the reason we're getting so much notice in the country is that nobody's been able to figure this out at scale. It hasn't been figured out. And so they're looking at us and saying, wow, here's a district that has all these challenges, and yet look at the gains they're making. And the one thing, and when they ask me, what is happening? I say, you know what? It was the right community, it was the right time, and finally our community said, enough, basta. No more low expectations. No more of, not letting these children just continue to be in poverty, multi-generational. No more, basta. No more. It's not going to happen anymore in San Antonio. That's what happened in this community, folks. That's why you're all here. And I want to recognize Valero, because Valero was one of our initial, I know they're a big sponsor here, but they were one of our initial investors. I went to them and to Laura and Silvia and to the CEO, Joe, and said, my children have aspirations. I want to give them more support. And they gave us one of the largest grants that they've ever given to an independent school district, $8.5 million, to put college advisors in every single school. By the way, when I first started, in my first month, Mr. Budd, Charles Budd from the Charles Budd Foundation, Mr. Budd actually said, look, what do you need? And actually gave us a large donation, said, you want to build your leadership, you want to build teacher capacity, here's some resources to help you. Mr. Frost, God rest his soul, was the same way. Anything we needed, he gave us resources. We've had these champions in the community. Kid from Silver Ventures, and I know he's very shy, he doesn't like for me to mention him, but again, these have been individuals that have been early investors. And so the only thing I ask of all of you, join us. Join us. Go deeper with us in our relationship. Help us. This community can help itself. This community can make a difference. Thank you, everyone. Mr. Perez is going to come up now and do some Q&A.
Very good.
Thank you.
Why don't we have a seat?
Thank you.
All right. So what do you think? Are we on the right track? Well, I can tell you that I'm very excited about all the progress. Clearly, the numbers are showing some very incredible movement, all in the positive direction. Tell me a little bit about, and by the way, we've got the Slido app. Maybe we can put up the Slido thing again so that people can get on Slido and provide me with some of their questions. But I wanted to talk a little bit about this unique relationship that you've been able to develop along with the leadership of your board with charter schools. How is that working out, and is that a trend that you see continuing into time?
So what's interesting, Richard, is that we've done it a little different here in San Antonio. Again, we're doing it the San Antonio way. So first of all, we don't see charters as the enemy. We see, hey, bring on the competition, right? I believe in choice for families. And so what we have done is we partner with charters that have similar values as us. So for example, KIPP has an amazing program where they follow the students through college. I just think that's just cool. They know where all their graduates are in terms of college. So I said, look, rather than me reinventing the wheel, come and train our counselors. Right, by the way, they're the ones that I realized that they were getting funding from Valero. So that's what also helped me to go ask for funding from Valero. Again, we do it the San Antonio way.
Sure.
And so for us, we don't, we'll partner with individuals with the same values, but that's what we don't compromise, Richard. And one of the things, for example, that I'm very proud of, that poverty system that we developed that's been adopted by the state, it drives everything, ladies and gentlemen. It drives, we reserve seats for children in the high school. My families that are on the waiting list in the audience, I'm so sorry, but we reserve seats for our highest poverty families. We don't allow our schools to be dominated by our non-poverty families. So we call them diverse by design schools. We do that on purpose. And so we give the schools autonomy. We call them in-district charters, so they can have the same autonomies as any charter school, and that's where our board is at. So again, what we're doing is taking the best of both worlds and combining them together.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about the bond. So the last bond that you had was 2016. Tell me about the results of that bond, projects on time, on budget, under budget. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I couldn't be prouder of the work that Mr. Burrows has done. So by the way, we took our time with the 2016 bond. When I came on in 2015, I heard some mixed reviews about our 2010 bond. So I said, let's do it a little bit different. So first of all, that bond was $450 million. By the way, 72% approval rate. Every single voting precinct, except for one, Mission Academy, which already had a brand new school, voted for the bond. No hard feelings, Mission Academy, but just, every single community. And what we have done is we have 13 projects underway, Richard. We'll have at least 3 of them finished this summer. Almost 100% of the academic classroom spaces will be done this calendar year. Every project is on time. Every project is on budget or under budget. And our team has done an amazing work. And so what's happened is that now that people are seeing what's possible, because these buildings, I'll tell you could see the pictures, they look beautiful. Now my other schools are saying, okay, what about us?
Sure.
And that's what created the conversation about, all right, what can we do? How do we set up our finances? Because I understand, look, our taxpayers here, I know you're paying a lot of taxes. And so we want to be responsible and accountable to our taxpayers, but at the same time, we have, I believe, a chance in a lifetime that we haven't had before with the base growing, the investments that are happening. Chambers both have done a great job in encouraging more business, more development. We have a unique opportunity to invest back in our community.
So $1.2 billion, that is a massive number. Tell us a little bit about why so big? What is the need?
So the need is $2.5 billion. We want to tackle half of it. Folks, here's the thing. One of the things that I'm trying to show you with our academics, we're going big, right? This is Texas. You go big, right? You go big or you go home. We're going big here.
All right.
And so for us, one of the things that we figured out, Richard, is that our tax base could support a bond as high as $1.25 billion as early as this year without raising your rates. And then just with modest increases, eventually we could have a second bond. And so the commitment that when I talked to our board, is said, look, let's make sure we make this commitment to our taxpayers. And by the way, this is your way of keeping that money local. Now, just a little side note, Dallas going for $3.7 billion. Houston, multi-billion dollars. Austin just did a $1.4 billion. What's happening is, this is the reality, folks. When your taxes go up, every single dollar, I am now becoming the tax collector for the state. So when you pay me $1, I give it right to the state. That's happening in Houston, that's happening in Dallas. The only way for those dollars to stay local is through bonds. So that is why Houston, that is why Austin, that is why Dallas is saying, look, you want to keep your money local? You can do that doing it this way. And so for us, we see it as an investment in our community, an investment in our children.
That's wonderful. I love the fact that you're going for a 1.2, but you actually have capacity for 1.5. So that means that we're all on the right track, right? The investments that we're making in our neighborhoods, in our businesses, is paying off, and it's really showing the opportunity for us to grow.
It's actually $2.5 billion is the capacity over 10 years,
Wow.
Richard, which is, again, and again, that's why I joke about the cranes, but I'm not joking. I mean, because, and again, you have to recognize all of our developers who are making investments in this community, our original developers who said, we're going to invest in the center core of the city. And again, the chambers have been a big part of that. Our city council, our mayor has been a big part of that. Folks, it is happening.
Excellent. So let's go to Slido here, and I know we're getting close to time. What has been the most rewarding part of your job to date?
For me, it is seeing the aspirations of our children. I got to tell you, for me, it is very personal to see students similar to myself, my wife. We both, first generation, grew up in Chicago. My wife grew up in Chicago, but actually grew up most of her years in Mexico, her teenage years. I was born in Mexico. And to see our children, different generations, right? Some multiple generations here in San Antonio, some just recent to San Antonio, and to see those aspirations. And for us to be able to connect that. And what I'm seeing, Richard, is when I look at our teachers, and I'll tell you the pride that they're feeling right now because they're seeing the improvements. They're seeing the gains. When you hear our high school teachers who are saying, we're making connections with these students like in a way that I haven't before. And it's paying off because our students, when you make that relationship, they will work for you. By the way, employers, you make that connection with our students, they will work for you in a way that they'll be so committed. And that's what gives me so much pride, Richard, is that I'm seeing the pride of our community coming and showing up regardless of what their challenges are maybe at home.
Excellent. So same question, but what has been the biggest challenge that you've encountered as superintendent?
So this is the thing I say, ladies and gentlemen, is that poverty, I don't care how smart you are, I don't care how hard you work, has a way of humbling you. And poverty here is a serious issue. In fact, one little homework assignment I'm going to give all of you is Google in your free time, a 60 Minutes clip that happened back in the late 60s that was about hunger in San Antonio. And that will give you some context of where we're coming from. So the poverty here is so deep and so dense. It's more than I've ever seen anywhere else in any other major city. And it's very segregated. And so for us, that's been the biggest challenge, Richard. Again, the message that we send our staff is, look, we have a community that will unite together if we ask for help. We have a community that is ready for change, and we have leveraged that. And that, so we don't feel alone in this challenge. It's all of us together. But again, it's there, folks, and it's been there for decades. It's not going to go away anytime soon, but we have a chance if we work together to make a real dent in it.
Excellent. Thank you for that. That's very important. So along those lines, another question from Slido. What will SAISD do to support social emotional wellness and social emotional learning for students and faculty?
So first of all, I got to tell you, Patty Salzman, my chief academic officer, the best in the country. Like there's nobody even close. And one of the things she'll tell you is that so much of our professional development now that is being driven by our teachers is around this issue. It is around social and emotional learning. It's about trauma-informed care because the biggest request we're getting from teachers is a child has been exposed to trauma at home. They're coming, they have those challenges. I need some tools. I need some resources. And our state doesn't provide enough funding for social workers. They don't provide funding for enough counselors. So it falls a lot on our teachers. Now, luckily, we have communities in schools. We have City Year. We have amazing partners that are working with us, but I could triple them and it still wouldn't be enough. And so for us, we're doing that training. By the way, those trainings, full house. Like, we offer those trainings. They are full. They are more in demand than ever, which shows you, again, the passion that our teachers have to support our children.
Wonderful. Well, we look forward to getting behind you, all of us in this room and others outside of this room, and keeping you pushed up for success. We thank your board for the vision that they've had to hire someone that is focused, someone that understands, and someone that's actually getting things done. So we're going to end this question and answer session right now. Judy, are you coming up and you're going to take over the next part? So how about a round of applause for Pedro Martinez again? Great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, got it. Thank you so much. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thanks, Judy.
Let's also have a round of applause for Richard for facilitating. Thank you so much. I'm Judy Gelhood with the SISD Foundation, and with me is Vanessa Hurd, our Chief External Relations Officer for SISD. And before our students from Lamar put on their last entertainment of your morning with their Chimes Choir, we just wanted to share a few things with you. Mainly, we want to thank you for giving us your time today. One of the most important things you can do is share this story. Share what you learned today in your conversations. It's at the grocery store, in a faculty meeting, wherever that is that you are. I also want to just quickly recognize how many of you all are alum from San Antonio ISD in the room. Have a round of applause. Getting back involved in this work where you had your foundation is really, really important, and we're going to be doing some extra reach out this year around alumni. But I do want to draw your attention to the cards on the table. Suzanne Peterson had mentioned ways that you can get involved. We have some really simple ways on the left-hand side where you can give us an hour a year or an hour a semester, but really important work in ways to help expose your career options to our students. And of course, we also have an opportunity for individual gifts. You make the kinds of student activities that you saw today, from a new podcast program for cyber, to new drum lines, to our new chime choir that you're going to be hearing from our distinguished gentlemen. You make those kinds of opportunities possible. If you want to flip it over, new to me, but old news, you can also do that real quickly with a QR code on your phone. So thank you guys for that opportunity. Also, if we could please recognize our distinguished students in the audience today. Some of them are with their college-bound advisors and their families. If you guys could stand. We are all here because of you all. We're investing in you all, so thank you for what you do. One of our mini grants we just funded was actually to Nicholas's math teacher to publish a tutoring guide in math that he created for all of his students at Travis Early College so that they could make sure that they can pass college-ready math. So that's the kind of talent that's in our room. Vanessa?
Good morning. My name is Vanessa Hurd, and I've recently just joined as a Chief External Relations Officer. So essentially, that means my job is to continue telling our story from the mountaintops, to tell it to more people, to tell it with a bigger bullhorn. So you'll be hearing from me. I want to make sure that we really increase the collective hug that is around this work for SAISD. There is nothing incremental about this work. There is nothing easy about this work. It is messy, it is hard, and I love it. And I'm very grateful to have a room full of people like you today on board, and to have a community that, like Superintendent Martinez has said enough to our generational poverty. We have got to tackle this together, so you'll be hearing from me. Along with telling our stories, I get to represent our work in Austin and represent our work here locally with the bond. So I will be making the case for why it is enough to have 44 out of our 90 schools that have not been renovated in at least 20 years. 44 out of 90. So you'll be hearing from me more about why that case is so important and why we have to, as a community, come together around a bond in November 3rd. And then finally, I'm working with a team of people to engage our families in new and different ways. Our families have got to not just be informed, they've got to be engaged. They have to be our critical partners in this work. So thank you very much for being here today. We're going to leave you where we started with students from Lamar Elementary. Thank you for your support. Please keep it coming and have a wonderful day.
Applause for our Lamar students and their fabulous teacher. They started practicing 3 weeks ago with their new equipment. So super fun. Thank you all again for being here. I want to give a special thank you to Joaquin Castro for making time to be here today. An alumnus, a parent, a huge advocate for this work and all the work that's happening here in San Antonio. So thank you for your representation and what you bring to us. Again, thank you all so much for coming. Until next time, and don't forget your cards.